Hello, brothers and sisters. This is Cheyenne, loving warrior for Christ, and I wanted to share a dream that I had the other night. I wasn't going to make a video about this because I didn't think it was important, but I've noticed there's been some videos out there talking about some kind of black goo, and that was what I was dreaming about. It was like this black, tiry looking black goo that was coming from the sky, and it had a life to it. It wasn't just like oil. It was more like it was alive. This stuff was just falling from the sky, and people were walking. It was just like falling on top of them, and it would move on its own. It could make shapes. It could do all kinds of stuff. It was really strange and bizarre, but people were still able to breathe. And some people were getting this stuff going on them, and it was going up their nose, and they were like sucked it into their bodies, and then it was like all of a sudden they were acting different, like they were being possessed by a demon, and this thing was possessing them, and they were being very strange and kind of scary. I don't know how to explain, like a scary zombie type attitudes, wanting to eat people's face, just weird behaviors, very evil behaviors, violent, very agitated. You couldn't talk to them. They didn't seem to have the capability to sit down and just talk. They were full of energy, and you couldn't get them to sit down if you tried. They were just on the go, one track mind, and it was very strange. And I had this dream, and at this time when this was happening in my dream, we the Christians were not getting this stuff on them at all. We were safe. It was like this stuff was picking people they wanted. It wasn't just anyone and everyone. If you were a believer in Christ, you didn't get this. This goo would leave you alone. But if you was not a Christian and you didn't believe in God and stuff like that, you weren't protected, and this stuff was affecting those people. So I just thought I'd share this dream with y'all. I don't know if it means anything, but I love you all. Okay, God bless you. Bye-bye. Hello, brothers and sisters. I was trying to find something to go with the video part of my dream, and I was typed in black goo on YouTube, not expecting to get anything, nothing that would be like this that I just found. I was just looking for something like like from a movie or something to help give me some visuals to put on my video. Well, while I was looking, I found this, and I'm like, oh, are you kidding? So, I was a little, like, surprised, but I guess there is such thing as a black goo, and here's this man right here is talking about it, and it's talking about energy and, stuff like that, so I thought I'd share that with y'all. It was very strange. I didn't know anything about this kind of stuff. I thought it was just a random dream, and now I see this, and I'm just like, wow. So I still don't really understand everything about this black goo stuff, but I only had one dream about it, and I never heard of this stuff before. So I might be researching on this and see what it's about. But I just thought I'd share this with y'all, and God bless you all. I love you. Bye-bye.
You know that story we were all told as children about a giant asteroid that struck the Earth millions of years ago and wiped out the dinosaurs?
Vaguely.
We were wrong. This metal caused the Great Extinction.
You have no idea what's been happening here. We're about to make the quantum leap.
It's the Holy Grail. Transformium. That's what we're calling it. This is the greatest advance in modern physics. It's a programmable matter.
But now we can begin to give it instructions.
Future with Robert Tursick.
Hi, good evening. Thank you. Are you ready for some adventures in synthetic biology? You're going to learn some amazing stuff. This is absolutely at the forefront, the cutting edge of science right now. It's not your grandfather's genetic engineering in the sense of taking two genes and splicing them together. This is a radically new notion. People are actually composing life. What they're doing is they're writing DNA, and they're writing it the same way that a software developer would write code for a computer. Except in this case, they're writing DNA that's then put into a living thing and can replicate, and can replicate. Hi, and welcome. Ooh, thank you. Tricky chair there. So welcome to Chicago, where it's freezing cold. You just joined Autodesk, and I want to hear all about this. So tell me what your new title is.
My title is Distinguished Research Scientist with the Bio-Nano Programmable Matter Group at Autodesk.
That's a mouthful.
It is.
Basically, the stage we're at with synthetic biology is the same stage that we were with personal computers back in the late 70s.
Absolutely.
Where people were, it was like homebrew computer club. People were building their own computers in their garages or their dens, kind of like the labs that I was talking about a minute ago.
Exactly, except now we're working with a different type of computer, really bacteria. They're like information processors that do chemicals, but they're different. They're programmable, but the cool thing is they also make more of themselves. So they're like computers that can reproduce. This is pretty powerful.
That's amazing.
And if you look at a bacterial genome, it has about 5 megabits of information. Really, a small photograph. But this is enough to program a living thing. And really, if you've got a software program, you have to learn the basics. You have to learn how to read it. You have to learn how to write it. Right. We've been sequencing with devices like this. This is a desktop. It's about the size of a laser printer, but it can do a whole human genome. And reading it, we're starting to comprehend more and more of the basic tools of life, this is a simulator for the first bacterial cell. It's actually
what's
really
going
cool.
on? What is this a picture of?
We're actually modeling all the chemical processes that happen in a single bacterium and understanding what's going on below the hood.
So this is a computer model of a cell.
Computer model of a living cell.
Wow, that's incredible.
It's the first time we've ever done this. This was published by Stanford this last summer. And really what we're doing now is we're starting to learn how to write code.
Thanks.
We started writing genetic code back in the 1970s using something called recombinant DNA technologies. It was cutting and splicing genetic code. And really, if you take a look at it, you end up kind of writing ransom note style. You can write anything, but it takes a long time to do. The shift with synthetic biology and what makes it so powerful is now we can actually use computer software. We don't need a lab anymore. We don't need these tools, which are really restrictive. We can start using laptops.
So they virtualized the lab.
Yes, essentially now we have word processors for DNA. And the cool thing is we have printers. Companies like DNA 2.0 and there's a bunch of other ones will print out your DNA, kind of like a Kinko's used to, prints out color copies.
So the analogy to the computers is actually total.
It's really close.
So the idea, in the 80s when personal computers got good, we went from desktop, word composition to desktop publishing, and that was a big change in the print business.
Now we're getting desktop biotech. And so it's push-button DNA, and this is...
So you can compose DNA using a browser.
You can compose DNA using a browser.
You hit a button and send it.
They'll send it off to you.
That's awesome.
And this is opening up biotechnology to a whole new generation of people that, are younger and know how to work with computers in the same way that, 30 years ago, kids started playing with personal computers.
And this is a big part of what you're doing. When I first met you, we were in Silicon Valley, and you were telling me that you've been working with high school kids and even grade school kids to try to get them to learn about synthetic biology, to maybe give them the confidence to play with it and experiment.
Yeah, I want them to realize this is potentially going to be a field that they will work in for the rest of their life if they start getting interested.
And how's that going? I mean, do kids respond to this
stuff? It's going really well. Really, some students naturally pick this up and they love working with it. And
so they don't see a big barrier. The way, I think when I was a kid, biology was for geeks. It was a challenge. You had to go, had to wear a lab coat and you had to schedule time, and there were beakers involved and so on.
Yeah, it was more sciencey back then. Now it's more of an information science.
That's cool. And then do they use these things, like when you work with kids, do they use genome compiler to go like print out their organism or their DNA that they develop?
They certainly use these types of software tools and these DNA printers routinely now.
That's kind of cool.
Yeah, it's really sharp.
Take us a little bit into the future. So tell us what's coming next then with this.
Well, really what's been happening is we're starting to move into modularizing this type of genetic code, making it easier to assemble and to put together faster and cheaper. It's kind of like Lego bricks. It's really extensible. And the group that's driving this forward is out of MIT. It's called International Genetically Engineered Machines. And it's really it's really the best student program for learning how to do synthetic biology.
Hang on a sec. So it's genetically engineered machines. So they're thinking about life as a kind of like a robot or a machine that you can control.
Yeah, we look at simple bacteria as really being little robots that are programmable.
So that's a little bit different from, in the opening comments, I talked about people who are building labs in their houses, in their dens, or their closets.
There's definitely a few people that have done it.
In a way, we're moving away from that now, where you can go join, it's like joining a hackerspace or a maker community.
It's more fun when you do it with a group anyway.
Sure, and you can get your questions answered, or somebody can show you how.
Exactly, and you don't have to worry about the FBI necessarily beating down your door. So, and the groups that are really getting good at this, well, they're using robots to do not just printing of DNA, but actually booting of the organism and testing. So this is allowing people to really have biotechnology done remotely. Wow, just cool. Send a design, they'll build and test.
That's a big one. So hang on, that means you could design an organism on your desktop computer, your laptop computer at Starbucks even, and then send it out to get not just printed or not just have the DNA compiled for you, but you could actually have the organism made, manufactured, produced? What do they?
Made, tested, and the results come back to you, and you can decide whether you're going to.
So if you didn't get it right the first time, you can do it again.
Do it again.
As humans, we create hundreds of millions of tons of waste every year, and a lot of it is this PET plastic. As Chief Creative Officer of 3D Systems and co-founder of EcoCycle with Coca-Cola, I've created a solution. The EcoCycle Cube 3D printer. This machine prints in post-consumer plastic. That means you could take this water bottle and print bracelets, robots, vases, shoes. That means taking this waste and not wasting it and turning your ideas into beautiful objects printed in this 3D printer. Welcome to the future.
processor. Predictive intelligence with Google Now complete.
Introducing Droid DNA by HTC. It's not an upgrade to your phone, it's an upgrade to yourself.
Welcome back. Try with Lady Gaga. Born This Way is the new single. Tell us about the album.
Oh, I love the album so much, and I hope all of the monsters do too. And the performance we did last night at the Grammys was, and what we've been doing with the egg and the rebirth. It's meant to signify an artistic statement of birthing a new race, and it's a race with no prejudice, a race within the race of humanity that bears no prejudice against anyone. So that's really the statement in itself.
Good evening. I'm Dan Atkinson. I'm the Director of Public Programs for UC San Diego Extension, and it's my pleasure to welcome you for this evening's talk with Dr. J. Craig Venter.
Thank you, and good evening, and welcome. Although Dan said it will be an interview, it won't. It will be a conversation. We don't know where it's going to go. But then, that's kind of been your life, hasn't it? Craig Venter, let me just briefly say, founder, chairman, and CEO of the J. Craig Venter Institute, also founder and CEO of Synthetic Genomics, and also a recipient of the United States National Medal of Science. We're here because he has a new book out called Life at the Speed of Light, From the Double Helix to the Dawn of Digital Life.
So the thesis of the book, going through everything, is that the DNA world and the digital world are becoming rapidly interchangeable. When we read the genetic code, I describe it as digitizing biology. And we've been doing this basically since Sanger's sequence of the DNA virus 5X174 in 1977, and up through the human genome and then well beyond. We've been filling the databases with digital code that describes the DNA code. And now we can go the other direction.
The reason that I mentioned that was that what you're talking about is re-engineering the genome in a much more logical fashion.
Yeah.
In other words, you're saying that there is a better way of doing it.
Yeah. Evolution is really messy. So all these people that want intelligent design need to look to the future, not to the past. And so we're actually thank you. I think Ham Smith on the team came up with the notion, we're defragging the genome by taking this messiness away and organizing genes by function in a logical way, because if we're trying to do design, you want to have cassettes for energy metabolism, cassettes for replication, etc. And so we're trying to reorganize, redesign a cellular genome in a logical fashion for this future phase of evolution that we're now entering.
shape-shifting material that can transform itself in real time, changing colors and shape on demand. It sounds like special effects you would see in a sci-fi movie, but this is no illusion. Researchers at Intel teamed up with the academic community to make what they call programmable matter.
The basic idea is the notion that you could have a material that could change its shape or change its physical properties just by reconfiguring itself.
Forget about designing something in flat 2 dimensions. What about creating a 3D prototype of anything, even a car?
Open the doors, kick the tires, peek inside to see what it looks like, fit little dolls of, people inside of it.
This space-age stuff is like putty in your hands. Programmable matter is still in the early developmental stages. But Intel's Andrew Chin says one day we may be able to morph objects on demand to fit our human needs.
So for example, I have a Bluetooth earpiece and it fits me great, but then when I put on my sunglasses, it doesn't fit anymore. Wouldn't it be nice if it could change its shape subtly, right, to all of a sudden match that? All of these things are possible with programmable matter. We are definitely on the edge of discovery with this one.
Gary Tuckman, CNN, Atlanta.
Hey, wait. What are we playing here? Retard bingo? What? That was on the table from the start.
Forget the start. It's the end you want to think about now.
It's Brock, sir. Edward Brock, Jr. I come before you today, humbled and humiliated, to ask you for one thing. I want you to kill Peter Parker.
Are you serious? Now, you're looking at the CERN. What have we learned from the CERN? Are you concerned? Is this thing going to burn? Well, they had to dump. What they had to do was a dump, because as they were racing at enormous speeds in this collider, and they were literally crashing protons at unprecedented speeds, there became some high intensity of, well, literally, there was concern that this thing may be, they can't control it. What I'm trying to say is they can extract matter from dark matter. They have done that. They're doing that. They're doing a lot of different types of experiments. They're only telling us bits and pieces of what they can do. But they had to do a dump, shut this thing down quickly and do a quick dump, because they really don't know what the potential is, the potential ramifications of the extremely high TeV speeds in which they're colliding these protons, and exactly what all dimensions they may actually open. I mean, they literally are opening up portals. They already know they are. They already can. And the question is, what are they releasing? It's not just the potential of explosion, or it's not just the creation of a God particles, but it's the entities, what is being reported as demonic entities that are being seen and are being released in and out of the portals of another dimension or another matrix. Or in other words, it's almost as if hell's gates are being opened with this thing. And what will be the spiritual, mental, physical ramifications of the CERN? I'm going to put a link down below for you that will give you really some late night reading, technical information, and understanding on what's happening at the CERN right now. And again, it's only what they're letting you know. But these people are dancing with the devil, and I'm telling you, it's a very, very concerning, if you will. We're living in the last days. We're tapping into areas that Nimrod wanted to tap into at the Tower of Babel. Different dimensions. The end times. Are you saved?
Are you serious? Are you serious? Mike from around the world will be our guest today. We're in the month of March. Today's March 10th. This Friday the 13th. Friday the 13th. The Illuminati loves that day. The CERN is going to be fired up. They will slowly ramp it up, headed toward the spring equinox, the total eclipse of the sun, a solar eclipse over Europe. And that is the day they want to ramp the CERN up to its maximum, almost the speed of light, where they can collide these protons and open a black hole. Demon spirits may be seen loose around Geneva, Switzerland, as it did last time. And they only opened this thing up 75% back on December 21st, 2012. What will happen? Look, Mike from around the world has got some very important information about the CERN that he's going to share with us live today. Let me give you a little bit of what we talked about yesterday, setting up for today's broadcast.
Concerning this, the urgency that we're in, and concerning CERN, not so much for the machinery, but the intent. And this probably won't be long enough to say it, but there's a film coming out March 14th called Symmetry. To give you an idea of this film, it was made specifically for CERN. It's also a message. Here's one of the captions in the film that people will find in the film as it's released. It will ultimately ask if one loves the particle more than himself. And then they ask, would you become one with the particle?
Really?
Yeah. And so of course, it would take a little more time to.
Well,
but that's one of the captions in the film. Go ahead.
The name of the film you say is Symmetry. Is that with a C?
Symmetry. Symmetry.
Okay. Now, it's going to be released in theaters across the country?
Well, it's March 14th by the Sundance Film Festival.
Okay.
And it's a very, they allowed this to be filmed inside of CERN. So it's not, it's not just an ordinary film. It's more of an intention. The scientists were very collaborative in this film. They did work and help produce this film, and it has an intent. It has an announcement. If a person, and it's not conspiracy theory, this is how science seems to edify itself. But they have an intent here. It's something very real. Something, yes.
Now they're releasing this the same time that CERN is being fired up.
Yeah, it's in that neighborhood, and so, you know, if I had more time, I'd go into detail. But I just needed to give you that update because I know a lot of people don't know what to think about CERN, or they don't know what to think about this time that we live in.
Why don't you take a few extra minutes here and just break it down for us a little bit more? Because I think it's pretty important information.
Okay. CERN itself, everybody knows about CERN. It's a particle accelerator. And they've already found the Higgs boson particle, which is accompanied, within that field, which is a field that is the other realm we can't see. That's in fact evidence that that realm exists. What they're looking for now is what powers all the fields, which is dark matter. It is they call it the God particle. Now, Pastor, it is my opinion, my professional opinion, that they are going to discover this particle. And there's nothing that will prohibit them from doing so. CERN is actually in its startup phases at the moment because they'll be doing checks and rechecks. There are some byproducts of CERN, of course, that people will likely experience. That's not conspiracy. Again, that's a fact. And
what do you mean by byproducts of CERN?
Well,
are you talking about demons, demonic entities, and
Pastor,
or are you talking about pressure on the brain?
If it were just demons, right? Because we've been given power over them, that would be one thing. But one of the problems with CERN is that it directly affects the psyche of everybody. You were talking about ISIS and the holes in the Arctic. When CERN started up, when they did one of the experiments in 2012, that's also the time that al-Baghdadi moved and shifted from being one entity to another in Syria. Beheadings were taking place, massive beheadings that they didn't tell the public began spontaneously at that same date. And then when the holes were discovered in 2013 and 14, well, that's when ISIS, as soon as they broke open, ISIS really went full throttle. And it did, in fact, unleash something in the world. The effects that CERN has on the brain are measurable. They're measurable effects. That's why it's underground so far.
Folks, he's going to give us more information today on the CERN, new information we haven't heard. All right. Now, but when they cranked the CERN up back in 2012, demon spirits were seen walking around the area around Geneva, Switzerland for over 2 weeks. People seen them in their homes. People seen them. Folks that had never seen anything before. People went mad. All right. Went completely insane. Now, Mike's saying that the pressure from this CERN that's being released when they collide these protons at the speed of, this time, almost the speed of light, affects the psyche of the human brain. And We know that is a fact. The question is, so this thing is 300 feet under the ground. They're trying to mitigate it. They're trying to, they're trying to hold back as much as they can from affecting us, but it is going to. They're doing this thing on the spring equinox, folks. During a solar eclipse, they want to be at their height, at the climax, right at the speed of light. Stephen Hawking is saying, don't do it. Don't do it. Well, I'm saying that the holes that open up these craters in Russia, that the same time those opened up is when ISIS began the massive, brutal beheadings, crucifixions, raping, murdering of unprecedented, reveling in the innocent blood of the righteous, and the persecution of Christians without question. And is there been a release from the demons of hell? And will CERN finish opening the pits of damnation? Well, or will there be a massive explosion in Geneva, Switzerland? It doesn't even exist when this is over. Or will there be nothing that we visibly see, nothing that we can tangibly see, but will this be a release in the demonic world of the spirit? And that is Bible prophecy, Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9, verse 11, and Revelation 16:13. You need to read those. Are you saved? We're running out of time. Don't miss today's live broadcast. Starts at 12 noon Eastern. Mike from around the world will be with us with an exclusive interview on what is actually going to happen with the CERN. He's going to relieve our minds, I think, in some way, and cause us to pray a whole lot more in another. Are you saved? Are you saved? Jesus is the way. Jesus is the answer. Jesus is the hope. Time's running out.